𝗙𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏. They were born as Portuguese. They grew up as Indonesian. They would die as Timorese. I was born and grew up as Indonesian. I'm adulting as Timorese. I would die as Timorese. They were born as Portuguese Timorese. They grew up as Timorese. They will die as Timorese. Transitory steps on this crocodile-shaped land, common feeling of the burn of the sun, the smell of the ocean, the warmth of cool air at night. That's where we will be laid. That's where we are going back. That's where we will be eaten. That's where we all belong. I am you, you are me. We are in this, in that, I give my all. I call it 𝗙𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is crocodile land, and some other lands and stuff. And also that these poems picture in the generations.
My full name is Bernabé Barreto Soares, known by Abe Barreto throughout Timor-Leste. I am now 56 years old. I work as an interpreter, translator. I've been doing this work since 2000, but I started writing poetry when I was 16 years old, when I was still in high school. I had no idea what the others wrote. And I just picked up my pen and wrote things that I felt, and particularly about nature, falling in love. I mean, as a young man, a teenager.
My exposure to poetry, at that time we didn't know what poetry is, but now we kind of consider that as a poetry. Is that in the cultural level, where sometimes we pray or pay respect, the way they actually deliver their words and stuff, kind of similar to poetry slam nowadays.
After I left the country when I was 1980, in 1985, to continue my study in university in Indonesia. Then I left for Canada for an exchange program, which in the end I decided to stay in Canada because of the political situation in Timor-Leste. But I began to seriously writing after being at university, first, second year. And I began to find my voice because I got to exposed to other Indonesian writers, young writers, and the old writers that have passed away. I began to write about Timor struggle, but I was so concerned with my own safety, I had no courage to publish. I began to publish those works after being away from Indonesia, after being in Canada. But I had to translate my works from Indonesian into English in order to get published in Canada. And so I made that effort to translate. Of course, in translations, some nuances are missing because of, And then in 1995, my first book of poetry in Indonesian was published in Holland. It was an anthology, or it was a collection of my poems. The majority of the poems were about Timor's struggle for freedom and justice and peace. And so that was, for me, it's a milestone in my literary career.
Later on, after high school, where I started to study in Singapore, that's when kind of calling from home, and also this whole missing homesickness, those kind of, and I started studying in Singapore for 3 years. That's when I start writing some of like reflection in a way, but reflection writings about Timor, about life, about how um, the different uh, experience we went through as Timorese, especially from 99, and then we have a small crisis happen in post-independence, and all the differences, and how like Mau and I, we don't speak same dialects, and those kind of differences gives this whole nuances of picture of what to write about the difference in Timor, but at the same time, it is Timor-Leste at the end of the day.
In my literary career so far, I have been using two languages as my tools of communication, Indonesian and Tetum. I started expressing myself poetically in Indonesian because by the time we was under the Indonesian occupation. So I started writing my poetic pieces in Indonesian. After years of being away, I came back to the country in 2000, in July 2000. Since that time that I began to write in Tetum, the Timorese national and official languages, I began to feel more that I am a real Timorese expressing himself or herself. Because Tetum is now a national and one of the official languages. The other official languages, the other official language is Portuguese. So Tetum has that status as national and official language. So I'm proud of using that. So, but I don't totally leave Indonesia. I don't put aside. I let Indonesia also as part of my language of communication in that sense. And so why do I write in Tetum? Because I want to communicate to the young generation, because the young generation now, even though they speak Indonesian, because they don't have to go to school, because they just understand or learn about Indonesian through watching the movies and reading the text or news in the Facebook. But by writing in Tetum makes me feel that I get connected with the real world in Timor. But I just want to express one view in the Timorese poetic panorama here. I would like Timorese to feel freely to express themselves in 5 languages: Tetum, Portuguese, English, Indonesian, and the mother tongue. Since I am from Manatutu, I want to also write in Galoleng. That's for my dad's side. And for my mom's side, I have the Bunak with me. So I want to express myself also in that mother tongue, Bunak. So I want to see the flourishing of Timorese poetry.
Coming back after 7 years abroad, coming back to Timor, Tetum is kind of hard for me to actually really write and how to make it grammarly correct. And we have different kind of Tetum standard in Timor. So it's kind of difficult, complicated at first. So I go with the flow. Like I feel like I'm writing it in English. I'm not thinking of like writing that in both languages, because then I will lose the meaning in itself, because the experience is that sometimes people ask me like, oh, can you translate your own can you translate the poems that you write in English to Tetun, or Tetun to English? And I'm like, I'm hesitant whenever it comes to this, because then it lose the meaning itself. Because not saying Tetun doesn't have many vocabularies or not, but it's just that English have I have been exposed 7 years and speaking English, and there is some words that you couldn't actually find in Tetun, and some really hard-hitting words that actually describe pretty much, and it's really hard to find in Tetun. And sometimes I just want to keep it, okay, this is just English, I don't want to translate it. But in terms of language in general, I think uh, for me, um, to echo what Mahabe said, depends on the audience. In Timor, I in- I'm leaning towards more on Tetun, writing Tetuns to make it more relatable. And also, what topic am I writing? Am I writing as to have my fellow Timorese to understand the differences or whatever topic that I want to put across, or am I writing just for the sake of writing? So language become the ways to actually express it, but sometimes we have to be like thinking of what message we put across to what audience.
Timor-Leste was invaded in December 1975. A year after, was occupied militarily by Indonesia, of course. And then under Indonesian regime, 24 years, Timor-Leste was occupied. And so as a young man who got inspired to write about my own country's suffering, my own country's joy, happiness, and so on and so forth, I felt that I have a calling to express. I felt that poetry or literature as a whole, as a channel, as a way of expressing those cry for freedom, cry for justice, cry for. So of course that is totally in the eyes of Indonesian military, it's a subversive act.
This whole surface level of Timor gained independence and from was occupied by Indonesian and colonized by Portuguese, those kind of stuff. But now it's more into like cultural level of like, okay, this is my personal experience. This is different, even though that experience, like the international level know about Timor, is still his part of the history. But there is other narratives and there's other stories that we don't talk so much about. So I got back. That's when I met some poets in Timor. I could name a few. 𝗙𝗏𝗶𝗴 is one of them. Um, Trolta and Manazi, and I got exposed to Sandra. Like it's different generation, but that's when I know like, oh, this Timorese poets, a lot of them, apart from 𝗙𝗏𝗶𝗴 𝗥𝗲𝗀, who is just like I consider him as the father of poetry in Timor. 𝗙𝗏𝗴 𝗥𝗲𝗀, who is actually involved in the resistance movement, and also he is writing so many resistance poems. So I start to explore about like who is 𝗙𝗏𝗴, who is Francisco 𝗙𝗏𝗴, and then move into again who is Xanana itself as a poem, as a poet, and different leaders, and goes into 𝗙𝗏𝗴's generation and Sandra, Tilman, Mana, Zelia, Trolta, and also generation after me. Now they post a lot about on Facebook where I read some of them and we collaborate. So that's when I know that, oh, there are so many poets in Timor, and to explore all the differences. But I think the difference that I kind of notice is that back in the day, where Francisco Borja, it mainly talks about struggles, resistance, and how to uh, um, win the fight against Indonesian. And on that case, in relation to what 𝗏𝗏𝗶𝗴 mentioned about his experience, that in relation they are kind of related to older generation. I will call older generation, but towards like my generation and younger generation, we talk about so many things now. Like we still some of the what Francisco Borja and 𝗏𝗏𝗶𝗴's generation talk about resistance, we use that as a references. If there is something repetition happening in this country, we use it as a reference to actually remind and make people reflect why we gained the independence and this kind of stuff. But apart from that, we talk about personal experiences in relation to war that we actually um, phase in 1991, 1999, and all this displacement and different. It's sort of like a, in a way of kind of get it out as a trauma healing, in itself. Our layout in Timor is like Facebook, people post on Facebook about poems and stuff. We've read through it. Now some people, sometimes I don't understand what they're writing. It's not because they're writing are bad or something. It's not about that. It's just that they use languages and stuff. It becomes more playing around with words. Sometimes people just go ahead, talk about their experience, and the topic now it's it varies from education, sometimes lack of education, but in relation in general, it talks about still talk about injustice happening in Timor. And that's what still there's in relation of like older generation and the younger generation, is that there is uh, a strain line of injustice that happening even though in the different forms, and poets still incorporate that to their writings, and sometimes they go off like writing about love and stuff, but in a way it all circle around the injustice that they're facing, and also the whole society facing.
I'm so glad to meet Titiso in the poetic scene in Timor-Leste. So for me, to meet young generation that who love writing poetry makes me feel that I'm not alone in this country. It makes me even get excited that yes, together we can make a difference. Let's come together, making a big noise. Poetry, of course, poetry cannot change the world, but poetry can gives us some sense of integrity, some sense of the hunger for the taste of justice, the taste of truth. So poetry has that power to motivate us to get involved more and more in the state and nation building. And the last thing is peace building in the country, in the region, and in the world. So I'm so glad to meet young people like 𝗙𝗂𝗏, Vitalia, and others.
So I would like to add in terms of like poetry in relation to literacy in Timor. I guess it is the commentary of like my observation of Timor, because I'm involved in Movimiento Letras, which is a community library, really informal library in town in Dili. And one thing that we notice is that the culture of reading, writing, let's say right now we categorize as like really poor. But like my observation is that in terms of poem, we're still Timorese people. We're still a long way to actually, even though we have that, but in terms of poems, poetry before, but in terms of like make it in writing and structurally and to make it point across, we still have a long way and long battle ahead to actually establish the culture of that. So I guess this whole us meeting and knowing Mawabe, knowing Mana Zelia and different poets, that's a foundation too. And also now that we talk about with you, Carissa, for the program in August, it's for me, it's like a little stone, a stepping stone to shape what Timor poetry is going to be or will be, or what the poetry in Timor is.
Yeah, I publish my works in Facebook and also in Blogspot. I have one old Blogspot, 𝗙𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗏blogspot.com. You can find my works there. And also I have my two Facebook accounts, 𝗔𝗯𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗏𝗀𝗏 and 𝗙𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃 is focusing more on writing in Indonesian, and 𝗔𝗯𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃 is more in Tetum.
There's a poem, like Facebook account, 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 as well. To adding into what Mao mentioned about the poetry in Timor, and also I created a page called Taracheron, which is the founder, and kind of having different young generation, old generations poems who wants to be featured in that. I put together, and it's in 4 languages: Portuguese, Indonesian, Tetun, and English, and also targeted to Timorese people. Timorese people trying to express their voice in the poetry.
I want to share a prose poem that I wrote about my mom. I was inspired by my mom's wise words in my life. I wrote it in Tetum, but I have translated into English. Mother, a spring flowing day and night. Speaking about mother, it's no doubt that we speak about our own roots, our own origins. If there had not been the presence of a mother, how could we appear and exist and dance with joy on the stages of our planet Earth? Along with our fathers, our beloved mothers took us with a blanket of love from the palace of God wholeheartedly. She took and brought us to the jungle of the world. She was not tired of seeing us flourish, and also she was not tired of seeing us extend our twigs and perch everywhere. We cannot measure at all the suffering of our mother. We cannot return the favor of a mother at all until we die, until we become dust again. As someone who bore us in the world, she does not ask us for many things. As someone who suffered a lot for us, what she only asks is our whole offering of love back to her. As someone who has given all her life when burying us, she really wants us not to be lazy in drying her tears when she cries. The love of a mother is an endless one. The love of a mother is a heavenly one. The love of a mother is the love of time immemorial. Mothers are like springs flowing day and night. The water of those springs is crystal clear and very beautiful. The swollen wounds we have can be massaged with the spring water. The swollen wounds we have will be healed by its magic power. With all the love they offer us, mothers create harmony. With all the love they spread, mothers create peace. With all the love they foster, mothers create tranquility within every household. A mother's presence in our world with all the fragility she has moves her to utter her voice. Hers is a golden one. Hers is a soft one. Hers is a compassionate one. Oftentimes singing in the space of sublime truth. Thank you.